Alien visitation of planet Earth is a phenomenon that has been reported throughout human history. It's only in recent times, since the advent of atomic energy and the innovation of rocketry and space exploration, that the aliens have started becoming increasingly interested in what we were doing and began to interact with us. Many fighter pilots during World War II reported seeing Foo Fighters, disc-shaped craft that sometimes appeared as glowing orbs of light. This UFO appeared over Los Angeles in 1942 and stayed there for several hours. They shone spotlights up at it, and the military even tried shooting at it, their gunfire apparently having no effect. The first crashed alien craft were recovered by Naval Intelligence and the Army OSS in the 1930s. These led to the formation of MJ-12 under James Forrestal, one of many brave men that have come forward with the information, only to be deemed insane by powerful forces within the military and locked away at the infamous Bethesda Naval Hospital, where many witnesses were locked away for telling the truth over the years. Forrestal was later pushed out of a 5-story window, and his death was written off as a suicide. After the War of the Worlds radio broadcast and subsequent independent studies, it was determined that the public could never be told the truth about aliens. Roswell was the first recovery of an alien being, a live alien being. It was also the first time anything like this had leaked to the mainstream public. Countless lies and cover-ups can't distract serious researchers from what's in the actual original reports. According to these reports, 4 alien bodies were recovered from the crash debris. 2 were dead, and 1 was badly injured and died shortly after. The 4th alien was found wandering the desert. They captured it and named the creature EBE, short for Extraterrestrial Biological Entity. And luckily doctors learned enough about its anatomy from the dead aliens to keep it alive for 2 years until it got sick and died. For the first year of captivity, EBE would not talk or communicate with humans at all. After a year, the creature finally became responsive, but it would lie often, so there was no way to know if it was telling the truth. A pattern was soon noticed in the creature's responses. It would always give an answer that would result in a positive response, as if it knew what you were thinking and told you what you wanted to hear. If no answer could elicit a positive response, the creature would not respond at all. This became very frustrating for the scientists who were trying to extract information out of this creature. Government-alien relations have always been like this. There are no secret alliances. Little information is ever obtained about their mission or intentions, therefore our military must deem them hostile. There are hundreds of other reports of crashed alien craft. Nearly every country in the world has its own Roswell-type incident, which resulted in the U.S. military coming in, clearing everything out in the area, covering it up, and not answering any questions about it. The Kecksburg, Pennsylvania case is a prime example where NASA is currently being sued in federal court after refusing to comply with a Freedom of Information Act request for documents related to the case. The Roswell incident in July 1947 spawned a media and public frenzy that led to the formation of the National Security Act, the top-secret NSA, and turned the Army OSS into the CIA. Several top-secret reverse engineering programs took place at Los Alamos during this time, where scientists were told they were examining Russian or Japanese technology and asked to figure out how it worked. In 1955, Area 51 was created, and then in 1958 the government created a public-friendly space administration called NASA to cover for the real space program that was being run under NACA. Research was limited and funding was small. Some say the idea was to release the technology in steps, a little at a time, but I don't think they planned it that way at all. Just because NASA has actual physical specimens for study doesn't mean that they understood what they were dealing with the first time that they looked at it. They would have had to understand the science behind how these things worked, science that wasn't known to the mainstream world. Until now, our understanding of science has now reached the point where we have stealth technology, we have anti-gravity drives that can bend space-time by spinning superfluids at relativistic speeds. The implications of technologies like interstellar space travel alone suggest that alien visitation is possible. Combine that with the possibility of aliens existing and you'll find your answer. So why are they here? They are here to study and observe us for scientific reasons as well as military ones. We are a threat to them. We are terrorists who manufacture and possess nuclear weapons of mass destruction. We have stockpiled enough nuclear missiles to destroy the entire planet, yet we call ourselves intelligent. Furthermore, the people that we put in charge of these nuclear launch codes have reported that their bunkers and silos were infiltrated by UFOs, which removed the nuclear material from all the warheads. There have been reports of UFOs chasing down ICBMs and flying around them, shining a laser to disarm the warhead and remove the radioactive material. Now, either this really happened, or the government is hiring mentally unstable people to control the fate of the world. But that doesn't explain what made the plutonium and uranium disappear. You know what I mean? With a primitive and violent species like ours, I understand why the aliens would adopt a strict non-relations foreign policy. Non-relations is the best foreign policy one can have. They study us, monitor us, and try not to give us any information so they can observe us evolve more naturally. Some even say that they have a giant supercomputer that has recorded all of Earth's history and can play it back for you, any part of it. The F-117 stealth fighter was around for 30 years before they revealed its existence to the public. We usually have to wait until someone dies or spills the beans to get any answers, and 30 years is a long time to keep a secret. By this estimate, I would say that our government scientists were beginning to understand the intrinsic structure of these materials they were examining sometime back in the 1980s. I would like to ask any scientists who may have worked on any projects like this to step forward or send me any information on what they know. These chips would be silicone-based and sparkly, and some turn invisible under flash photography. You would have lost your job sometime before the Iran-Contra scandal went down, when your funding was cut off to pay for secret wars for globalization once they knew they had the technology to microchip everybody. By the 1980s, these top-secret research programs required several $100 billion a year to fund annually. How is this all paid for? The most contrived racketeering operation in political history, the war on drugs. We all know that drugs are bad for us. Some people choose not to care and do them anyway. Drug use is a social medical problem, yet we have laws that make it a criminal problem. Compare this to prohibition in the 1920s, when Al Capone ran the Chicago mob on bootleg liquor. The rise of organized crime was a direct result of the increased black market value of the drug, and thus potential profit. Drug dealers would be forced to get regular jobs if they couldn't make more money selling drugs. But it's the people bringing the drugs into the country who are making the real money, and it's a conspiracy at the highest levels of government. The DEA is to eliminate the CIA's competition. The most ingenious part of the plot is how it promotes bigger government and makes people demand a police state as the drug problems grow worse. The problem is they send marijuana users to jail, where they meet 500 other drug dealers and make connections. While locked in this cage together, they teach each other criminal behaviors and how to be smarter at getting away with them, and young impressionable men who came in on petty pot charges get introduced to cocaine and heroin. Many hardcore drug addicts say that they tried it for the first time when they were in prison. The criminal justice system only breeds criminality, and the judges and prosecutors who pretty much don't care because it gives them a job. Helping a man by locking him in a cage like an animal, these are smart people in these positions of power, and they know what they are doing. They would also rather turn a blind eye to the reports that the CIA has been smuggling drugs into this country, laundering the money through Wall Street firms and a very shady bank in Pakistan called the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, which was shut down in the early 1990s. During the 1980s, the secret government ran several operations which were partly uncovered during the Iran-Contra hearings, which involved running drugs to pay for weapons, which were then given to terrorist groups, who would then attack other countries with the weapons we gave them secretly, just so that the people would call for help and America could come to the rescue. Sure enough, a bunch of people got caught taking hostages, and, well, we can all go look up the history. However, something the history books don't tell you is that the guy who was hired to investigate the Iran-Contra scandal for the government is tied to the entire operation through a secret society known as Skull and Bones. He swept the CIA drug dealing thing under the rug and said a few bad apples were sorted out, but everything is fine again now. He later would allow the younger Bush to steal the 2004 election without any protest. Bush had also stolen the 2000 election against Al Gore, and this was a hot topic in the press in August and September of 2001. In May of 2001, the Disclosure Project came forward with over 400 former military and government officials claiming that they had worked on black projects with UFOs within the military and government, and were beginning to prompt the newly elected Bush and his Congress to open congressional hearings and investigations into the entire matter of UFOs, aliens, and extraterrestrials. At the same time, peace protests were threatening to end wars everywhere, and the Taliban had begun burning all the opium fields in Afghanistan, so the secret government's heroin operation was running dry. All of these things sort of came crashing together at once, and a plan that had been underway for nearly 30 years was rushed into action. On 9/11/2001, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld made their dream of a new Pearl Harbor come true.